a worn-out off-campus residence wedged between a laundromat and a boarded-up pharmacy on the edge of town. They were freshman engineering students from small Midwest towns, buzzing with the thrill of independence, too excited and too broke to care about the flickering hallway lights or the way the ceiling fan in their room rattled like it might fall any second. Room 214 was theirs. 3 metal frame beds, a chipped desk, and an old closet that groaned every time it opened. But when the landlord, Mr. Grayson, handed Ethan the key, he paused for a second and said quietly, almost like an afterthought, "That room sleeps 4 just fine. You boys won't feel alone." They laughed it off. 3 was already crowded enough. Jake was the first to notice the 4th bed. It wasn't shoved aside or abandoned. It was made perfectly. Sheets tucked tight, pillows centered, like someone cared. On the nightstand sat a worn notebook, a half-used deodorant stick, and a small photo frame turned face down. Ethan figured it belonged to the last tenant. Marcus flipped the photo for just a second before putting it back. A college-aged guy, early 20s, glasses, easy smile. The kind of face you'd trust instantly. That night, exhausted, they ignored the extra bed. But around 2:30 a.m., Ethan woke up to the sound of the closet door creaking open slowly. In the faint glow of moonlight, the 4th bed had sunk slightly, like someone was lying there, still, breathing. He shut his eyes and pulled the blanket over his head, convincing himself it was just shadows. Within a week, they started living like there were 4 of them. Without thinking, they spaced out their morning routines into 4 turns. Marcus would order takeout and always add an extra meal, then hesitate like he forgot why. Jake kept the 4th chair slightly pulled out at the desk, like someone had just gotten up. Nobody questioned it. It felt normal, like holding a door open without checking who's behind you. One day, a classmate came over and joked, "4 beds for 3 guys? Lucky." Ethan almost corrected him, almost said, "There are 4 of us," but stopped. That night, lying awake, he tried to remember the 4th roommate's name, and it came instantly, effortlessly, like an old memory. Daniel. By October, a strange cold settled into the corner where the 4th bed stood. Not from weather, not from drafts, something deeper. Marcus, who slept closest, started wearing a hoodie to bed. He'd wake up around 3 a.m. to the soft sound of pages turning. The notebook on the nightstand would always be open, different page each time. The handwriting inside was tight, rushed, like someone trying to finish something important before time ran out. Marcus never read it. He'd quietly close the notebook, and every morning, he had no memory of doing it. By November, Daniel had habits, not memories, not a past, just presence. The closet was always left slightly open. That's Daniel's side. A 4th coffee mug sat out every morning. If something was left on his bed, no one touched it. They spoke about him casually. "Daniel's got the charger. Is Daniel using the fan?" Then one night, Jake caught himself laughing mid-conversation, talking to the empty chair, waiting for a response. And something answered. Not words, just the unmistakable feeling of someone leaning in, amused. Jake froze, then grabbed his phone and called his mom, talking for hours about nothing. One rainy afternoon, Marcus flipped the photo again. The guy wore a university lanyard. Same smile, same face. On the back, written in red ink, Room 214, first day. Marcus opened the notebook, pages filled with daily life, classes, cafeteria food, random thoughts. Then suddenly, halfway through, it stopped, mid-sentence. He searched the name written inside, Daniel Harper. An article popped up, a bus crash, Interstate 85, 18 months ago. 7 students killed. One of them, 21, engineering student, recently moved to the city. Same face. Marcus left the notebook on the bed and walked out without looking back. In January, Mr. Grayson came up for rent. The boys handed their share, split 3 ways. He counted it slowly.
Then again. "This isn't right," he said. Jake frowned. "We divided it between 3. Mr. Greason looked at the 4th bed, the mug, the notebook.
"There's never been 3 in that room," he said quietly. "It's always been 4. He pulled out a ledger. 4 names, 4 signatures. 3 fresh ones, 1 written long before. He tapped it gently. He moved in first. The newspaper clipping told the rest. Daniel had called that night, said he was on the bus heading back before midnight. He never made it. His family took his things weeks later. Mr. Greason admitted he meant to clear the room, but never did. Something always stopped him. When these boys moved in, he convinced himself it was just furniture. Ethan slowly looked around. The 4th bed still had that shape. The 4th mug had warm coffee in it. They stayed. They shouldn't have, but they did. All lights on, no one sleeping. At exactly 2:47 a.m., the lights didn't flicker. They dimmed, slowly, one by one. Darkness. Then, the creak of the 4th bed taking weight. The sound of the notebook opening. A pen scratching across paper. Ethan turned his head. The bed was occupied. A still shape. Breathing. Calm. The coffee steamed softly. A page turned. Morning came too quickly. They left before sunrise. No words. No looking back. Half a mile away, Marcus finally spoke. He wasn't haunting us. Silence. He was just living there. Ethan thought about the warm coffee, the notebook, the extra chair. A 21-year-old kid. First room. First independence. A life paused, but not ended. Jake picked up his bag. "We should have paid full rent," he said. They walked into the morning. And back in room 214, the notebook lay open. Last entry, written that morning. "Good roommates. I'll miss them." The night Emily Harper arrived at Blackwood Hostel, the rain came sideways. She had been backpacking across the United States for 3 weeks. New York, Chicago, Denver, and Portland was supposed to be the easy stop. A quirky city, cheap bed, one quiet night before her flight home to San Diego. She found the hostel through a third-party site, booked the last available bunk, and thought nothing of the 3-star rating or the single review that simply read, "Leave before dark." She had laughed at that. Travelers left dramatic reviews all the time. She shouldered her pack, buzzed the iron door, and stepped inside. The man at the desk did not look up when she entered. He was old, impossibly old, with hands like crumpled paper and eyes that seemed focused somewhere behind her face. He slid a key across the counter without asking her name. Room 3C, 3rd floor, end of the hall. "Breakfast is at 7, he said. Then softer, almost to himself, "If you are still here." Emily assumed it was a strange joke. She smiled politely, grabbed the key, and headed for the stairs. The stairwell smelled like mildew, and something underneath it. Something sweet, like fruit left too long. The fluorescent light on the 2nd floor landing flickered in a slow rhythm, and every door there was sealed with a strip of yellow tape running from top to bottom, perfectly centered. Maintenance, she told herself. Nothing unusual. Room 3C had 6 bunks, 5 occupied. A young couple, a guy named Ethan, and a woman in the corner bunk lying completely still, face to the wall, shoes still on. Emily asked if she was okay. Ethan shrugged, said she had been like that all day. The woman's back rose and fell, barely. By midnight, the hostel was silent. Not normal sleep silence, but something held, tense. Emily lay awake, staring upward, unable to sleep, listening to the building breathe around her,
feeling like she had stepped into something that had been waiting long before she arrived tonight.
That was when she heard it, from somewhere below, from the second floor. A sound she would spend the rest of her life trying to describe. Not a scream, not a knock, something between the two. A rhythmic, wet thumping. One beat, pause, one beat, pause. Like something heavy dragged slowly across a floor. She pulled the blanket tighter. The sound stopped. Then came footsteps on the stairs. Slow, deliberate. Emily counted without meaning to. 12 steps to the landing. Then silence. Then more steps. 13, 14, 15. Whoever it was reached the third floor. The hallway door creaked open. The footsteps moved closer and stopped directly outside their room. The handle began to turn. Left, right, left again. Harder, testing. Then nothing. Minutes passed. When she finally opened the door slightly, the hallway was empty. But on the floor was a key, labeled 2F. She picked it up, returned to her bunk, turning it in her hands. At 2 a.m, Ethan finally spoke. She showed him the key. He admitted another had appeared earlier. They checked the trash and found it. 2 identical keys. Someone wanted them to go there. Suddenly, the woman in the corner bunk moved violently, sitting upright, her head tilted unnaturally. In perfect English, she said, "You need to be on the ground floor before 3. Both of you. Don't use the stairs." Then she lay back down and went still again. It was 2:17 a.m., 43 minutes. Ethan searched online and found an old forum post warning about the same hostel, same sounds, same keys, same mistake of going down to investigate. The post ended abruptly. Replies said the same thing happened. Accounts deleted. No explanation. No follow-up. Emily and Ethan looked at each other and understood without speaking. They needed to leave. Now. They moved quickly, quietly. Emily grabbed her passport and phone, Ethan his shoes and jacket. The hallway smelled stronger now, sweet and rotten. All lights were off except for a dim glow from a door at the end of the hall, one without a number, slightly open. From inside came soft breathing, multiple people, perfectly synchronized. They moved away from it, toward the stairwell. When Ethan opened the door, cold air rushed out, unnatural and sharp. The stairs down were dark. The stairs up, to a 4th floor Emily had not known existed, glowed faint red. From above came the sound of a television and a laugh track, something disturbingly normal. They went down. Past the 2nd floor, they heard breathing again, right behind the sealed doors, the same unified rhythm, waiting. They reached the ground floor. Warmth returned instantly. The lobby was empty. The old man was gone. His chair pushed back, coffee still steaming. The front door was locked with multiple mechanisms. Ethan searched behind the desk and found a logbook. Every guest had checked in and out on the same day, except those on the 3rd floor. Their checkout dates were blank. Emily found a switch and unlocked the door. They ran outside into the wet, quiet street. At 2:51 a.m., they looked back. Every window was dark except one. A figure stood there. Beside it, a pale hand pressed against the glass, unmoving, watching them leave. They reported everything to the police at dawn. The officer listened, but said the hostel had been closed for months. No guests, no staff. Official records confirmed it. The listing Emily used no longer existed. Not removed, erased, as if it had never been there. Emily flew home to San Diego. Ethan returned to Seattle. They stayed in touch briefly, then less. 3 months later, Ethan stopped replying. His last message read, "It found my address." No explanation followed. Emily tried to search for him, but found nothing unusual, nothing helpful. That silence was worse than any confirmation. She began sleeping with lights on, checking locks repeatedly, listening. Because sometimes, in the quietest hours of the night, she hears it again. That same rhythmic sound. One beat, pause. One beat, pause. From beneath her floor. Slow, patient, deliberate. Not searching, not wandering. Waiting. She does not tell anyone anymore because no one would understand. Because she has begun to realize something far worse than fear. Whatever existed in that hostel was not trapped there. It did not belong to that building. That place was simply where it was easiest to notice, where the pattern was clearest, where people disappeared cleanly. But patterns do not stay contained forever. They spread, quietly, patiently. And sometimes, very late at night, when the city outside her apartment is completely still, she lies awake and counts the beats, trying to convince herself they are random, trying not to recognize the slow movement of something that has already learned her rhythm, already learned her fear, and is now waiting for the moment she finally stops resisting the silence and listens closely enough to understand that the sound is not beneath her apartment at all, but inside the walls, closer every night. The air in the Westbrook University dormitory didn't smell like history. It smelled like fresh drywall, IKEA particle board, and the faint, sweet chemical ghost of recently applied latex paint. It was a building that had no business being scary. Built just 3 years ago, Ashford Hall was a gleaming monument to modern student debt, complete with biometric entry pads and energy-efficient LED lighting that hummed at a frequency just low enough to make your teeth ache if you thought about it too long. For Maya Chen, it was supposed to be a sanctuary from the damp, creaking off-campus house with a leaking roof. It was new. It was safe. It was the last place on earth she expected to hear the knocking. The knocking started on a Tuesday, specifically at 3:03 a.m. Maya was a forensic science major. She was hardwired to notice the details. She checked her phone screen, the blue light bleaching the color from her dorm room walls. 3:03 a.m. Not 3 o'clock, not 3:15. The knock was a rapid, almost frantic sequence of 5 raps against the wall shared with room 414. The problem was, room 414 was a janitorial supply closet, and the closet, as she had confirmed earlier that day when looking for a vacuum bag, was a dead-end concrete box with no windows and absolutely zero space for a person to stand and knock. She texted her roommate Jenna, who was across the hall. "You hear that?" Jenna replied instantly. "Probably the pipes. New building. They settle." Wednesday night, the knocking was louder. This time, it wasn't a rap, it was a scratch. A slow, deliberate drag of something sharp across the textured drywall behind her headboard. Maya pressed her ear to the cool surface. The sound was metallic and seemed to move downward, as if gravity was pulling it toward the floor. She pounded on the wall with her fist. "Hey, cut it out!" The scratching stopped. In the silence that followed, she heard a sound that made the hair on her forearm stand. It wasn't a pipe. It was a sigh. A long, weary exhalation of air that seemed to come from inside the wall. By Friday, the phenomenon had a name in the group chat. They called it the settler, a dark joke referencing the construction foreman's excuse for every pop and groan in the frame. But the humor curdled when it spread beyond Maya's room. Lily, on the 3rd floor, reported that her bathroom mirror wouldn't fog where a handprint should be. It fogged everywhere except a perfect, child-sized handprint. Then came the video from Aisha on 5. She set her laptop for a sleep study. At 3:03 a.m., her closet door slid open 3 inches, then shut, by itself. The video spread quickly. The resident advisor, Brian, dismissed everything as air pressure differentials. Maya knew better. On Sunday, Maya prepared. She borrowed a stud finder and a thermal camera. At 3:03 a.m., the scratching returned, frantic now. She aimed the thermal camera at the wall. Most of it showed cool tones, but one section glowed bright, a heat signature. It was low to the ground, crouching, the exact shape of a human figure pressing against the other side of the wall. She called Brian. He arrived annoyed, but when he looked at the camera, his expression collapsed. The figure wasn't still anymore. It pulsed, slowly. Then it turned its head, directly toward them.
Brian went to the housing office the next morning and pulled blueprints. Maya hacked his email and found them. The official layout showed a simple closet, but the contractor's as-built plans revealed something else. A hidden void between the closet and stairwell. A narrow, sealed-off space that had been filled and closed during construction. A space no one was meant to see.
Maya confronted Brian. There's a dead space in the wall. Someone was sealed in there. Brian admitted a subcontractor had gone missing during construction. No investigation. Just assumed he left. The foundation had been poured the next day. But according to the thermal camera, something inside was still warm. That night, at exactly 3:03 a.m., the power failed. Not just their room, the entire building. Locks clicked open. Doors creaked. The building felt alive. Maya heard dozens of doors opening, followed by a wet dragging sound moving through the corridor. She grabbed her flashlight and opened her door slightly. The hallway was pitch black, except for faint moonlight. The walls were changing. Paint blistered outward like something pushing from inside. Then, the drywall split. Black liquid oozed down, pooling on the floor. Jenna screamed. Maya ran to her room. Inside, the lights flickered red. The ceiling was covered in handprints, thousands of them, layered over each other as if something had been crawling above them all semester. Watching, breathing, feeding. Fire stairs, Maya said. They ran, avoiding the walls. The air smelled like wet earth and metal. But the stairwell was blocked. Not broken, changed. The steps were replaced by a pulsing surface, like flesh. A deep heartbeat echoed from below. They were being guided, forced. Every path led them toward the basement. The building wasn't collapsing. It was reorganizing. They reached the common room. The TV flickered on. Static filled the screen, then formed a shape. A man in a hard hat, face obscured. He held blueprints, pointing at the void, at her. The floor began to sink. The carpet split, revealing wet concrete beneath. This was the space. This was where he fell, where he was buried alive. Maya realized the truth. He wasn't attacking them. He was trying to show them. The knocking, the scratching, it wasn't violence. It was communication. A desperate attempt to be found. She stepped forward. "I see you," she said. "I know where you are." Everything stopped. The lights stabilized. The walls returned to normal. The shape on the screen faded. The building exhaled. Later, the university dug up the foundation. They found the remains exactly where Maya said. Official reports called it a construction oversight. Ashford Hall remained open, but something about it changed. Maya transferred the next semester. She chose older buildings after that, because she understood something most people don't. New places aren't safe. They're just places where the past hasn't had time to settle yet.
Thank you for your time. Hope you enjoyed this experience. Leave your suggestions in the comments and like and hit the subscribe button to help us grow.